Token Metrics is a cryptocurrency investment platform that helps users leverage machine learning to become better crypto investors. Our in-depth analysis helps eliminate the emotions of investing, find profitable investment opportunities, and filters out scams. Learn more at tokenmetrics.com.
We are live. Welcome to the Market Update Show. I'm your host, Bill Noble. This show is brought to you by tokenmetrics.com. If you need a roadmap in crypto, or you just can't believe what's going on your screens, then subscribe to this channel. Turn on the alerts bell so you know when we're going live. And of course, if you like the content, give us a thumbs up. All right. Now, as people roll in and join the stream, we're going to have a little bit more of, we're going to have a more relaxed conversational format because I have lots of complex analysis that I worked with a couple different people on. We have on-chain data debuting today on the Market Update. So don't go anywhere and stay tuned for that. We're looking at miners and what they're bringing into the market or not in terms of supply that they ship to exchanges, as well as looking at Bitcoin futures funding rates and what they told us about the recent move. That and the geopolitical situation and more. We will also do like our on-demand altcoin thing. So just in case everybody out there is wondering where are the altcoins, don't worry. We're going to cover all the altcoins on the fly with the software. I've got what a lot of people ask for already programmed in, so we can take a look that way. All right, let's see who we got on the stream here. Let's say hello. Okay, we have Al Hassan, welcome. Sebastian Ali. Okay, Bloke. All right, Dip Soon. Aiken, giving me notorious love. I appreciate that. All right. We have our first person from London. Welcome. Oregon, North Carolina. Forget about it. Exactly. I look at this market and I go, oh my God, forget about it. I have never seen anything like this, folks. It's official. Okay. Hello from Oklahoma. When is the dip or the crash? Stay tuned. I will tell you. Virginia, Manchester. Market update. It's going up and never stopping. That's from Mike. Like the way you're thinking. All right. Sebastian coming to you from the mothership. Miami, Florida, New York, Kentucky. Hitting that like button. I appreciate that. Somebody was asking for compound yesterday. I'm going to write that down. I'm not going to forget. Promise. Okay. Brooklyn in the house. Tanzania. Brazil, Atlanta, the UK, all right? Coming to us from everywhere. And Taz, my guy right here in the house. All right, folks, let's just get right into it. Let's get right into it. All right, this is called War Games, okay? So I'm going to try to go through this slowly, right? First, we have to talk about the geopolitical situation, right? I know that people want the 100x altcoin right away. So we'll get to altcoins and we'll get to crypto. Just give me a minute. Now, let's look at oil. This is West Texas Intermediate Crude oil in the United States. Ticker symbol is CL. In TradingView. We've been looking at Brent. That's the world standard, right? That's hovering around $98. But we just saw oil in the United States explode up through 95, over 100. And I've got a scenario for $128. Okay, now remember what we talked about, right? Oil up can be negative for stocks and risk assets. Now, I will cover later on whether or not Bitcoin is risky or safe. We'll get to that. But for the moment, oil continues to go up, which means the war situation is getting worse. Because we discussed throughout multiple streams that oil traders are going to be the most sensitive to what's going on the ground. They work for huge companies. They're going to know before we will. Wheat, food. This is a monthly chart, fitting that this is the start of the month of wheat futures. Now, I used to work at the Chicago Board of Trade. Ironically, I worked across from the grain room, right? But things in grains can get wild, okay? Now, I'm not an expert on wheat futures, but when I look at this chart and I'm like, okay, how high can wheat go? The supplies of wheat that come out of both Russia and the Ukraine, that's like a very solid chunk of the world's grain supply. Now, I'm showing that if wheat goes any higher, it can go 50% higher. So this is not necessarily a wheat prediction. It's just notifying you that, ZW1, I believe is a symbol in TradingView, needs to be on your watch list. So this presentation and this talk today is as much about building a watch list as it is figuring out where the market's going to go. Because I don't think you can have a tactical plan for crypto or stocks without understanding what's going on here. So if you get oil and wheat, if they continue to go just a little bit higher, they can go a lot higher. That would mean a dramatic escalation in this geopolitical situation, right? Now you're like, well, gee, Bill, what does a dramatic escalation in the geopolitical situation mean? Let's talk about that. So if oil and food traders are smart and they're telling you things are getting worse, then let's look at European banks. That's right, European banks. Why? Because they have a lot of lending exposure to Russia. Now, European banks, since this started, have just kind of fallen out of bed, right? Fallen out of bed because banks have got exposure to Russia. So that means the European Central Bank and the Fed may have to help them, because if banks go down anymore, they could go down 25%. So it's okay to crash the Russian stock market and it's okay to crash the ruble, according to the West, right? I'll get to my opinion on that later. The fact of the matter is the Federal Reserve may be more preoccupied with making sure European banks don't blow up than they are about raising interest rates. Now, on one hand, that could contribute to the monster crypto rally yesterday and the ongoing bid in the sector. Makes sense, right? Fed might have to take a break and put inflation on the back burner. Okay. On the other hand, the fact that the Fed or central banks may have to come in and save the whole damn system should give you pause, particularly if you're in highly speculative assets. All right. So let's go over what we've talked about. Food and oil up, smart money getting worried about war. European banks in trouble because of the SWIFT and the sanctions regime. Now, let's talk about the wisdom of SWIFT. Let's talk about the wisdom of what happens when you get too emotional too quick. So as many of you may have heard on Twitter, I'm 50% Ukrainian, all right? And I'm named after somebody who, tangled with the KGB in the Cold War. So as you might suspect, I'm a little pumped up about what's going on over there, but I'm still an analyst. I'm still your analyst, and I want to be the best analyst possible. And one of the things you have to do when you get really emotional is take a step back and think. So here's something from Geopolitical Futures this morning, my favorite think tank in Austin, Texas, right? They said, for many, Russian pride is competing with shame. Plenty still oppose the war, but some high-profile people are still supporting Russia. Others, even though they were unhappy with the pandemic response, some of them who almost lost their jobs, and some who were shocked by the start of the military operation, are now, keyword is now, sympathetic to the government. Okay? So think about it. If you woke up one day and your neighbor took the tires and the rims off your car, the food out of your fridge, and had a barbecue right out where you could see with your tires and your rims on their car, would you get upset? If you went to the ATM and said, sorry, you cannot access your funds, then you went to the grocery store and everything was triple in price, would you be upset? Would you be mad at your neighbor? Would you want to go punch your neighbor? Okay. The Russians are not happy. They have gone to nuclear readiness alert, and nobody is paying attention to that except me and you for tuning in. Now, why did I just tell you about this whole idea of, a lot of people in Russia, right, who may have not supported the war are now supporting Putin? Well, again, because they can't use Apple Pay and, their soccer team can't compete in the World Cup. And if you think it's blowing up the European banks, I don't even know. I can't even imagine what's happening to Russian banks. Okay. Question is, did the West just walk into a trap? Did we all just get too emotional? Did they pull Russia out of SWIFT and blow the country up? Did they? Now, if they blew the country up, how do things work in today's world? Is it like, all right, you know what? I'm not really happy with the Russians, so here's what I'll do. I'm going to press a button and blow up their economy, and then I'm going to go to a different app on my phone, and I'm going to get chicken wings from DoorDash and watch TV because they're going to go blow up all on their own, and they're not going to say anything about it, right? Whoa, wait a minute. So I'm talking to somebody this morning, and they let me know, I can't even believe this person knew this, that Putin in 2020, at the start of the pandemic, endorsed a rule outlawing him to get, endorsing and allowing him to carry out a first strike nuclear response. This comes from the Daily Mail for those in the UK, and I found it on another website, and here's what it says. Russia will be ready to use nuclear weapons in the event of nuclear weapons against its allies, okay, as well as in the case of non-nuclear aggression. Let me say that again. As well as in the case of non-nuclear aggression. I would say blowing up your currency and your banking system constitutes non-nuclear aggression. So when this guy said he's got his finger on the button, he's not effing around at all. Now, what does this have to do with crypto? So don't lose me. All right. Obviously, people piled into crypto just out of fear. They're like, oh my God, if this is going to happen, I got to grab some Bitcoin. And I'm sure that was going on all over the world. And that may go on for another day or two, at least. That could go on for another day or two. A lot of people out there are talking about the long-term plan for Bitcoin. I don't know how you can look at this and talk about the long-term plan for anything. You got to take it day in and day out, which is why you should stay tuned here. Now, speaking of non-nuclear aggression, this is the dollar versus the Russian ruble. So this is your neighbor having a barbecue with the meat in your fridge, right? Ruble down, dollar up, right? Would you like to look at your neighbor barbecuing your food? Not likely. Okay, the ruble could go all the way up to 132. So again, everyone's like, oh my God, I got to buy me some Bitcoin, or I got to buy me some crypto. And that's where the bid came from. Like Russian citizens, people looking for safe havens. I get that. But let's dive deeper. Remember we were talking about interest rates in the United States? We were looking at those DeMark charts. The U.S. 10-year note yield, which everybody was like, oh my God, about during the inflation heyday, hit 2% and is crashing, right? Interest rates, which are supposed to be going up because food and energy are going up, or inflation is, these interest rates are crashing. People are flooding into the U.S. government bond market out of fear. So the same reasons people bought Bitcoin, okay, that's awesome. but they're also buying treasuries. Like, legacy fear is real. And people who are in the know, that would be commodity traders, food traders, those big companies, people inside the legacy universe who are like, oh my God, something bad could happen here. I mean, do you seriously think that I may be the only crypto YouTube guy talking about this, but do you think I'm the only guy out there that knows this? Of course not. Right? People are like, oh my God, I gotta buy bonds. I'm scared. Now, why are they scared? Well, because, as we've said all along, and this is kind of a crypto thing, right? Like, they're just all smoking the funny stuff in equities, right? I mean, yeah, okay, the Fed raising rates 9 times would be bad for stocks, right? But what's worse for stocks? Instability in the financial world, silo doors opening, banks in trouble. I mean, the Fed can't increase the amount of money it prints unless there's an event. So again, I ask, how in God's name are stocks going to hold up? Right? I'm showing in S&P futures, if stocks break through 4,300, right, that they could go right to 4,000, right? It could be like 5% disappearing act. Because remember, equities were down yesterday while crypto was up. Now, I know we in crypto, we love that, but this situation in equities, like oil, food up, right? Putin on the absolute war path, right? Russian economy collapsing. How is this good for the U.S. stock market, which is so wildly overvalued? It's unbelievable, right? It feels like a recipe for disaster, particularly since if Putin was going to do anything, whether it's nuclear or another escalation, cyber, whatever, the State of the Union address is coming up. And as soon as Joe Biden gets off the podium, I'm guessing that's when Putin acts. So we have 1 or 2 days to get our act together. Okay, final note on equities. Now, how bad can it get in equities? Let's just talk about fear and how high it is and how high it could get. So in the past, I've said when VIX, that's fear, another thing that should be on your trading view watch list. If fear gets above 33, most of the time, that's kind of the end of it. It's been that way since the start of the pandemic, right? There was this huge up move, and then every time fear gets to 33, it kind of stops. Okay. Well, I drew a chart of fear that came all the way back to when The Economist magazine in 2019 said inflation was dead. That was a cover. It's got a little dead dinosaur on it. Back in 2019. And then I just used the COVID panic high to calculate some levels for fear. So I could say, all right, well, such and such happens in S&P. It's better to look at fear because fear will impact everything, including crypto. So VIX, a level of stock market fear, if it gets above 33, the next level is 53. So if fear breaks its recent high, right, and there's plenty of reason to this time, fear could go to 53 or 90. Now you'd be like, wow, Bill, that's really bad. Well, yeah, it could be really bad, right? If the Fed can't save everybody, right, they can't cut rates. I don't think they can print more. So they just have to kind of let it happen, I think. That could take VIX up to 90, which is roughly where it was post-COVID. Yes, COVID was bad. This situation is worse because you've got the stability of the global financial system and, the threat of massive armed conflict. Now, let's get to crypto. So what have we told you? The geopolitical situation is getting worse. It's impacting the banking system. It could trigger problems with overvalued stock markets. So a perfect opportunity for crypto to rise up and start the decoupling trade. Okay? Let me just take a sip of my crypto Kool-Aid. That's the crypto Kool-Aid. That some sort of gigantic decoupling trade has started. Now, how will we know that that's right or wrong? right? So now we're going from Kool-Aid to charts. So the way I'm drawing these support and resistance levels, I'm actually drawing them on separate charts. So you can write them down or watch the video later. So on Bitcoin, I'm looking at either 44,800 or 46,500, okay, as possible resistance points. So if Bitcoin runs up to those levels and fails, get out, okay? Because what's the enemy? What's our enemy? The failed rally. So if Bitcoin just goes through these levels, then it could just keep right on going. You know, it could go to 49, etc. But if Bitcoin rushes up to these levels and fails, okay, then take note, because that's the time to de-risk. Because all this other stuff I told you is bad for risk assets. The only question is crypto a safe haven or a risk asset in this wacky new world? You'll know, okay, because we will either get or not get a failed rally. So if there's no failed rally, as in Bitcoin just keeps going through 46.5K, then it's party on, right? I mean, who knows? Right? Who knows how high it could go? Now, if you flip all this around, right, if some sort of Bitcoin narrative in the State of the Union address develops where people start talking about cryptocurrencies being a way for people to evade sanctions, okay, you need to ask yourself if you can live with that and what kind of debacle that would create in the market. So these are the resistance levels, 44 and 46. Be careful of the failed rallies. Party on if it's above resistance. Let's talk support for Bitcoin. 41,000 seems to be the best place for support. That was the old resistance. Even on my Gantt charts, I keep by hand. So the fact that they went through 40, 41 means that that level is now support. So, I mean, nothing goes straight up. I mean, it's gone up like 15, 20% in 2 days. If it dips to 41 and holds, then, you know, it's probably okay, right? Everything's probably okay until stocks, oil, and European banks start moving around. So if Bitcoin bounces off 41K, cool. If it takes out resistance, great. Okay, but if it fails at resistance and takes out support, then act appropriately. Act like you know what's going on, right? Because you do. You know what's going on. They're just not telling you on television, particularly in the United States. They tell you some stuff, right? Like, you know, women and children can't get out of the Ukraine, and that breaks my heart. It's tough to watch. But don't let that cloud your judgment when it comes to the market, right? So 44, 46, resistance, 41, support. Now, ETH. So ETH has got resistance near like 3,000. It's a little outside the box, but it is an even number. So 3,007, and then I've got 3,140. And there's probably 3,250 above that. Now, just as a note, we'll talk about it more later. I think one of the things that's going to be necessary to drive Ethereum is the US dollar would have to go down. Now, I know right now everybody was like, you know, one day they're buying it, the next day they're selling it, meaning the dollar. So the dollar is kind of all over the place. Just remember a Token Metrics research piece done last year that if the dollar, for whatever reason, goes down, there's an attack or a problem, that is the best case scenario for Ethereum. So if you see dollar down and Ethereum up above resistance, that could mean, you know, like the dawn of Ethereum, particularly with the supply situation. But let's just focus on charts. 3,140 and 3,000 are resistance. In ETH, support is at 2,840. So 2,840 is like a key level. Now, if you see ETH start to break down below 2,840 or Bitcoin below 41K, and you start to see equities accelerating lower, bond yields falling, or bond prices rising, no bueno. No bueno. All right. And that is the market update. Okay. Let's go to on-chain overtime. So we promised you a little on-chain data. Let's take a look at this. So this is Bitcoin futures perpetual funding rate, source Glassnode. Now, as you can see by the red histograms, right, Bitcoin futures traders were massively bearish 2 nights ago. Understandable, right? They thought the world was coming to an end, and they just all got very bearish, causing funding rates to go red, and then the market was massively squeezed out. So what happened yesterday? Did huge players buy Bitcoin? Maybe. We're still looking for evidence of that. All right. But what really seemed to happen was people get way too short and just got squeezed out. Like, we know that happened. Right. So the violence of that short squeeze can't be understated. Now, an additional piece of on-chain trivia is that the yellow line represents transfer volume from miners to exchanges. So it's miners, and what are they shipping to exchanges? The volume. It's the yellow line, and as you can see, miners are just keeping all their Bitcoin. They're not shipping it to exchanges. It's a 14-day moving average, but, it's kind of ticked up a little bit. So the question remains, will miners continue to hold Bitcoin? Will they sell it directly to Michael Saylor through an over-the-counter agent? Or will miners potentially have to sell Bitcoin if Bitcoin becomes the bad guy? Yeah, I know nobody wants to talk about this, but if Bitcoin becomes the bad guy, if crypto becomes the bad guy, then miners may have to start selling in order to fund operations in case of a power disruption or regulation. So this chart shows miners have been hoarding every Bitcoin they can do. Of course, right? It makes sense. It's like the Michael Saylor thinking. But this chart also shows what can happen or how much supply could come into the market if miners have to come in and start unloading. So it's my first day with on-chain data. We're taking the training wheels off. Okay, I'm looking at the stock of Riot Blockchain, which I strongly recommend you keep on your watch list. Seems interesting that even though Bitcoin was bid, they were in a big hurry to sell the stock on the gap up, right? So watching stocks of miners is going to be just as important as watching your Galaxy Digitals and your MicroStrategies. Now, one final note before we can rock on with altcoins is a dollar and a dream, the theme of the New York Lotto. Anybody notice that gold is smoking higher today? The long-awaited multi-year teacup and handle formation at the top of the range in gold shows gold following Bitcoin higher. Now, one of the things that's amazing about gold is that it could foreshadow something which could make every crypto dream come true. Normally, when you have a rally in gold, you have a decline in the dollar. And if people finally, for once and for all, buy gold because they've lost confidence in the dollar, and we know they've lost confidence in the ruble, but what happens if they lose confidence in the dollar? There's a DeMark 13 top in the dollar index, all right? There's also a D wave, that's DeMark Elliott waves. There's a 5-wave reading, meaning the dollar, the up move that's been going on and annoying everybody for the last 15 months could be over. Can you imagine? So while I want you to, I want you to be sensible, I want you to engage in risk management, right? I don't want you to get caught in crypto if crypto becomes the bad guy or stocks vaporize. I do want you to keep in mind that you need to watch the dollar, because if gold goes up and the dollar goes down, that could be the greatest day ever in crypto. All right. And that is the deluxe market update. All right. Let's see what we got here in the chat. Binance is under scrutiny for not blocking Russian money. Okay, that coupled with an overheated stock market and interest rate hikes seems like a lethal cocktail. Possibly, right? In other words, If crypto gets set up as the bad guy, it's not great. It's not great. So Routine is asking, how much exposure do Western banks have in Russia? A lot, particularly in Europe, because we could potentially see a Lehman domino if the Russian banks collapse. Should we be worried? Yes, people are worried. That's why they bought Bitcoin. And certain DeFi coins were taken off today. So it's not over for crypto. It's not a foregone conclusion that crypto is going to blow up, okay? One way or the other. Like you can make a case for 100K and you can make a case for much lower prices. Right? I would say if you're in crypto, active risk management, right? They advocate hodling, sitting, and watching. Yeah, as of today, I would be an active portfolio manager because you do not want to get wrecked, nor do you want to miss out on any upside. So you have to have a diversified portfolio, okay? Something I haven't heard, which is wearable NFTs, okay? Yes, Flow is an interesting NFT play. It was actually the original one Ian and I used to talk about on the Sunday live stream, mostly Ian, because they were in on the NBA, all right? So yes, we are absolutely going to, okay, SEC president is the bull run back on, okay? I would say the bull run is back on if Bitcoin is above 46K. I think at the moment, you need to be a little bit careful and reasonable. Watch for the failed rally. All right, now, I know y'all are going to explode, right, if I don't do some altcoins. So let's just do that. Okay, I'm calling it up. Okay, I got the request list here. All right, let's rock some requests. Basically, this is so wild that I'm just going to stay on until I can't do it anymore. That's just what we're going to do. So let's try and hit the like button. Okay, so I have stocks up here. This is SPY daily. Okay, note how stocks are failing at this dotted support. I'm sorry, dotted resistance level. Okay. Okay, so somebody was asking for Luna on a daily basis. Okay. Looks like Luna may be getting close to a 9 top. Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart, see what we get. Okay, so there's the 4-hour chart in Luna. All right, there are the two giant 13 bars up at the top. So here's how I would phrase it for Luna, right? If Luna has a parabolic lurch up, it may wind up going to 106. So let's say there's a move in Bitcoin to like 46, or ETH goes to 3,200, right? I would estimate that you would see Luna at 106. Big picture, okay? Over the next, say, like one day, I would get half the money off the table or more in Luna, right? Now, this could become like the owner of DeFi, right? The ultimate DeFi play. Whoops. It could. Because, I mean, that's where all the total value locked is flooding into, okay? That, and I saw my favorite shitcoin, Rune, was up a lot today. But I think when it comes to Luna, you know, you've got top signals and you've got resistance above at 106. So if you got to blow off top to 106, that's where I would take the money, right? I talked about taking some at 87, and I would take the risk of it at 106. And I guess if Luna became, I don't know, the Goldman Sachs of DeFi, and it went much, much, much higher, then perhaps you could buy back in on a dip, right? But I'm kind of for, no, everyone was selling it at 50 when Mehdi was telling you to buy it. Now up at 106 or near 100, I think that's where you should be taking the money. All right, let's see what else we got. Let's go to the metaverse. People are asking for Sandbox. Okay, let's go into the 4-hour chart of Sandbox to see what we got. Okay, so we're seeing that 9 top, right? I mean, it is hopefully easy to see on the screen. I will make it as easy to see as I can, right? What is a 9 top or a 9 bottom? Well, Tom DeMark, who's kind of the original quant, right? He'll count a certain set of conditions, right? The high is higher than the high 3 days ago, something like that. It's quantitative, okay? When those set of conditions, when they hit for either the 9th or a different calculation hits for the 13th time, that's become this very big psychological thing in technical analysis where people go, oh, okay, well, might be a bottom, might be a top. 9s are a little bit trickier than 13s, but it looks like Sandbox, if you get a monster rally, say up to, who knows where this could go. I mean, 335 could be it, or maybe they could take it all the way up to this prior peak at 340. Okay. But I think it's getting to the point where, you might want to take some trading profits in Sand and see if you can buy it back lower. Right. All right. Let's see what else we got. Okay. Let's look at Decentraland while we're at it. So Decentraland, actually looks a little better than Sandbox at the moment, right? Sandbox has been smoking to the upside. Decentraland's got room to 301 with no real topping signals that I can see. Okay. Now let's go back over here and let's look at API 3. All right, let's see if I can get API 3 going on this. I don't know if I can. Okay, here comes API 3 on this system. All right, so for API 3, there's critical support around 775. So I think if API 3 is going to hold, you're going to need to see it hold support at 775. Now, remember what I said earlier about, there could be Bitcoin and Ethereum as a safe haven, but then there's all this scary stuff that could affect risk assets, right? I mean, if you were long API 3 back on February 12th at $4 and it's now at $8, perhaps you need to ask yourself, all right, could I hold on for a new high? Yes, you could. API 3 could easily make a new high and go to 10. It absolutely could do that. So if 775 holds, 10 could be next. If API 3 went to 10, what would you do? Okay, my answer would be to take profits. All right, but there's definitely a count here on this 240-minute chart, right, for API 3, that although it may be tough to see, if you can see this little mouse here, okay, this is 1, 2, down at, say, I don't know, $3. The 3-wave was up to 10. The 4-wave correction was back to 5, and there could be a 5-wave new high. So one of the things that you may have noticed on the show is that, I do the market update, but then when we look at these altcoins, that's kind of where the hint is about what can be next for the larger market. So I can definitely see a situation where Bitcoin goes 46, 47, ETH goes 31 or 32, and some of these altcoins may have blow off tops, right? I mean, the object in motion may stay in motion. Now, as always, you want to be really smart. You want to be smart, right? In other words, make your money, but don't get killed. All right. All right. Let's take a look at SKL or scale. Okay. And then I'm just going to run through all the bigger altcoins that I know a lot of people are interested in, as well as take a look at whatever requests are there. Okay, here's an 8-hour chart of Scale Network. Okay, so you've had an epic bear market, right? And now the real question is it turning around? Okay, so here's your trend line, and it's coming right to resistance. Let's see if I can call it up here. No. Okay. As with any of these like destroyed coins, I think what you need to see is people willing to pay higher prices, right? If it's up today, that's great. Okay. But you need to, you're going to need a full turnaround there. But, this is hopeful because, this thing has been so destroyed, right? In other words, all these altcoins that have been wrecked may wind up sort of having like a 1 to 2 day comeback, right? A 1 to 2 day comeback. All right. Let's go back to altcoins in general, right? Let's see just what we have, what I call in our on-demand list. So this allows me to go through things that I know people ask for. And then, of course, we'll make sure that we get any other requests handled. All right. So here's synthetics, right? This is the daily chart. So synthetics looks like it's trying to make an uptrend. I would say synthetics has to be above 442 before you can get too excited. Okay, Rose. Okay, we're looking at the daily chart here. All right, the next big level is, I don't know, it's right around 28 cents. Okay, let's go to on-demand 2. Because I have 4-hour charts there. All right, we appreciate everybody who's out there hitting the like button. All right, we have Rose hitting resistance right about at today's high. So you need to keep that in mind in Rose. Now, if Rose is able to make a new high above where it was this morning, let's just take a look at Rose here. Okay, so very interesting on the daily chart. Okay, let's go to 8-hour. Now, if we're in a situation where Ethereum goes to 3,200, I'm guessing Rose, if it can break through that 26 cent level, it could have upside to 32 cents. Right? So if you are caught in this, then I don't know, give it a couple days. As long as Ethereum is green, then some of these altcoins can probably be equally as green. All right, let's go to crypto.com because I know people are definitely into that. Right? Crypto.com doesn't really have resistance until 48 cents. All right? So they can carry on even though they seem to take profits. Now we're getting close on a 240-minute chart to a possible top. So this is just like Luna, right? If you get to 48 or 50 cents on like a sudden thrust up, right, then that's probably the parabolic euphoric rally to take profits, right? Or get out of bad positions. So, I mean, at 44, it's looking good, right? But if you get 48 or 50, right, then you have to ask yourself, all right, you know, what does the rest of the world look like? And should I get out? Okay. Phantom was a very interesting play, right? A couple of days ago. I think Phantom was one of the ways, the Phantom chart was one of the ways I saved myself by not selling into the hole, because Phantom was on support. And I think that was actually down here. Right. So here's the 13 bottom in Phantom, right? Then it lurches up and does that sort of blow off thing. I was talking about that in Luna, except the other way around. Sometimes you get to 13 and then it rolls up and blows up. Now, if you look at Phantom now, Phantom did a 13 top. It did this really not so good looking doji, right? And this is an ABC correction, okay? Which means, you know, that could be it for Phantom. So Phantom was the first thing to bottom, and it almost feels like Phantom might be the first thing I'd take profits in. Now let's look at Cosmos, because I know people are into Cosmos. Right? Now this is like a stalemate. Okay. Common sense would tell you that, you know, the prior ceiling in Cosmos at 31 or 30 and a half may wind up becoming support. So Cosmos has done a 13 top, but sometimes 13 tops can be a little bizarre, just like 13 bottoms can be bizarre down here, right? You had one leg up and then it collapsed. So a 13 is not an automatic exit. It's not an automatic exit, right? If 30 and a half holds in Cosmos, Cosmos could have another leg. Now, I don't want to fake this, all right? But if I saw Cosmos at 34, right? If I saw it just, you know, just everybody was just wild bullish up at 34 or 35, that's where I would take the money short term, right? There's no long-term plan in crypto with what's going on. So support at 30 and a half, cool, right? If it breaks below that, well, okay, that's obvious. But if there is a sell resistance event in crypto, then you would do it at that level in Phantom. Okay, Cardano, which will no doubt be like the next question, right? So Cardano is dealing with, you know, the almighty dollar level, right? We discussed this down at 75 cents in Cardano, that wasn't the level to be selling, right? We didn't want to sell at 75 cents. Now the question is, do you want to buy at $1? I would say no, right? And there is the 13 top in Cardano. So some of these altcoins could go up more, like API3, but some of these like Phantom, you know, Luna, you know, you're starting to see it get tired, right? And I know people just want to FOMO in. And I know everyone is pissed off that they missed the rally the other day. Of course you did. Everybody was short, right? And that's why it turned around and they had a cover. All right. So again, with Cardano, if you're caught in this and you get a rally, now who knows? Cardano's got levels related to this 13 top, right? 103 and 109. So those are the levels I'd be looking at in Cardano. Okay, let's go to other layer ones, right? Because Patricia is asking for near. So I've definitely got near. Let's do VeChain first since I've got it up here. Okay, so VeChain, the proverbial heartbreaker at 0.054, right, has got, right, resistance to the mark, automated resistance, a 13 top and a 9 top. So if you've been suffering in VeChain, right? You're going to have to sit and hold your breath to see if these topping signals actually work out. All right. So if you got topping signals in Phantom, Luna, V-Chain, you may get this final lurch up, but it's the whole sell resistance type of thing, right? Everybody was bearish down below. Now everybody is most likely bullish. Okay. Near, same type of thing going on. Now, Near was obviously a buy. Mehdi was more than a genius on that because he picked up a bunch down at 8. Okay. So Near is right at prior resistance at 12. So it's also got a 9 top happening. This can be difficult to deal with, right? You're like, oh my God, this looks like a huge breakout. What do I do? Here's a strategy for Near. So let's say you bought it at 8. Okay. You can take some of the profits at 11 and let the rest ride as a moon bag. Okay. Or you can just leave it, see if this 9 top, all right, creates only a modest dip. This is something to keep in mind across all altcoins. If you have topping signals and you don't get much of a top, well, that's going to be very constructive. And in Near, right, if the fundamental case is so amazing that if you don't want to get off the wagon, I understand that, but it is at resistance, right? Buy support, sell resistance, as a friend of mine frequently says. Let's look at Avalanche, okay? Well, Avalanche hasn't done much on the upside. It seems obvious, given the 9 top and some of the candlesticks, that you've got people selling in front of 90. Okay, so like the Phantoms and the Avalanches that were the darlings are they may be getting sold in favor of, say, I don't know, Luna or Bitcoin or Ethereum. Okay, let's look at Solana, as I know those people are just crying, right? As we said yesterday, Solana has got resistance between 100 and 102. So even if you wound up getting out and taking your losses, right, I'm not seeing a big case, all right, except, maybe there's like the head and shoulders bottom in Solana, right? There's a shoulder, there's a head, there's a shoulder, okay? So if Solana is above 102, something good can happen, right? And if you took your losses, that's okay, right? The only way you clear your head is to somehow clear your portfolio. Now, Solana, unlike some of these other coins, this actually looks like, it's got resistance, but there's no terrible topping signal that I see. So if Solana holds 95, maybe that's one of the coins that can do better if Bitcoin takes out 46, right? But there is a lot of resistance at 102. All right, let's see what else I got here. Crow will probably blast off to $2. Their marketing is nonstop. That is possible. Okay, so I think this is my personal shitcoin list. Okay, here's Rune with the double 13 bottom. Okay, cross-chain DeFi may be waking up in the apocalypse. Who knows? All I know is this is at $3. If somebody ever asked me what I thought the next 100x could be, I would quote the guy who I got this idea from, me and another guy who found it, from Red Phone Crypto. Okay, another thing he was interested in was Rari governance token. So some of this like obscure DeFi stuff, 13 bottoms, that may be where it's at. It may not be in the layer ones. It may be in like money, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Nano, Dash, and then some of this DeFi plays. Okay. Let's look at Chainlink. All right. So Chainlink is doing okay, but not really exciting. If Chainlink got exciting, it could move to 14 or 15. Whoops. Okay. Somebody's asking for Axie Infinity. I guess the big question for crypto is what happens with gaming and the metaverse in this environment, right? Like does world changing apocalyptic scary stuff chase people into gaming in the metaverse or out? Okay. Axie Infinity looks like everybody is in the mood to sell the rally today. Okay. Let's see if I can call it up here. All right. Someone's asking for Gala. I actually programmed that in this morning. So with Axie Infinity, right, you had 213 bottoms, 313 bottoms, but you haven't seen a rally yet. Okay. Now, one of the good things is, I don't know if you can see this 5 down here, but, it looks like maybe they've puked it all out in Axie. Like, when I look at the other chart, it's like, But when I look at this, I'm like, hey, maybe there's I call it value trading. Maybe there's a value trading idea. Now, maybe from 45 to 65 was it. But if you wanted to hold on, if you were long Axie Infinity and you would hold on, non-investment advice, I'm like, hold on to it, right? As long as Bitcoin and ETH are green, some of this stuff may wind up going higher. Let's see. Oh, okay. So I made a new list. Okay, so here comes Gala. Okay, Terra Luna we did. Okay, I'm guessing profit-taking levels are above 100 based on resistance. So here's the 240-minute chart of Gala. Okay, tough to say exactly what's happening here, but it could be. Let me clear up the chart for you. It's a possible bump and run, right? Not sure I'm crazy about this trend line, but the idea is somewhere around 0.25 in Gala. Like the way this is looking now, like, I don't know, sand didn't look that great to me, but if speculative assets have got one more heave to the upside, Gala could do okay, right? I know someone's going to ask about Veracity. That's VRA, right? It looks like there are 13 and 9 tops all over the place. So I would not expect more upside right this second in that coin, okay? Elrond, which people also ask about, again, also has the 9 top scenario. It's not clear whether or not it's like a temporary dip, right? Because sometimes that's what happens, right? You get a set of 9 conditions, a top, and then it'll pause. And then if it restarts, that's where you want to jump in. Probably takes a couple days to get going. But like I said, some of these altcoins are going to benefit. Okay. I know somebody yesterday was asking for Engine Coin. All right. Now this looks like people are selling it, right? In front of like $1.74 because you've got the 13 top. So it might actually try to push through $1.74 if you have 1 or 2 more green days. All right. So, that's something to consider. If you've been bag holding, right? You're like, gee, should I get out? Right. Look at what happens at $1.74. Now, on the flip side, if you just look at this, okay, Engine Coin hasn't done anything since the middle of February. It went way down and went way back. So what's changed? Not a lot. And this is the case in a lot of other altcoins, right? Like if ETH is still in the green, You can hold some of this stuff. You want to sell resistance, right? And stuff, I mean, if you get a 1x, if Luna goes from 50 to 106, I say take profits. And some of this other stuff, if you want to do a wait and see approach while everything is still green, that's fine. You just need to be careful of what? The failed rally. Can I run Polkadot? Yes, for sure. Let's just try to find out where I've got Polkadot. Okay, it looks like for whatever reason, I don't have Polkadot on here. So let's get somewhere where I can get it in there. Okay, so that crashed. So let's go over to Polkadot here. All right, so with Polkadot, this is the same story, right? I know people are miserable in this. Okay, actually, you know, because Polkadot hasn't been moving, let's do something bold and on the fly. Let's see if we can look at a 45-minute chart. Radical, right? Okay, so here's Polkadot, right? Please hit the like button if you're out there, right? Let's maybe just all right. So let's pretend we're going to be optimistic in Polkadot. I think the level in Polkadot to focus on is 1901. Actually, wait, let me just make one adjustment here. Okay. Right. So 1901. Now, in order for Polkadot to get going, I think it's got to get above that level. If Polkadot gets above 1901, it can go to 21. Now, I know that sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but that's the new technical analysis, folks, in this environment. I can't be like, oh, yeah, this is absolutely going to moon. I don't know. I do know that if it takes out 19, it's probably going to join in with Bitcoin and ETH and everything else. Discuss that kind of like blow off top and say like Luna, a couple of those other coins, you know, that may happen. Okay. People asking for Illuvium. Okay, let's see if I can get Illuvium up on here. Okay, here comes Illuvium. Computer cooperates. Okay, so in Illuvium, we have the same situation we talked about, I think, in a lot of these other metaverse coins. So you've got a lot of 13 and 9 signals here, right? You have resistance around 596. It really hasn't gone anywhere relative to where it's been, say, the last 2-3 weeks. So it's this gigantic base down here, right? Normally, these small coins like Illuvium have not traded well after you get these signals. This is a 4-hour chart, so I would say stay tuned, right? Active portfolio management means you want to be selling stuff at resistance, and you only want to keep stuff that's good. Now, in Illuvium, how do you know? Well, if you have these topping signals and it doesn't go down, then that means Illuvium can do better. But if you have these topping signals and you wake up tomorrow morning and it's getting hammered, then I would encourage you to engage in risk management, right? Okay. Boss Nova is asking for, oh my God. I'm sorry, OMG, not oh my God. Oh my God is what happens when I watch CNN. Okay. All right. So similar situation as to a lot of other altcoins, right? Particularly the small ones. You know, the 13 bottom, you shouldn't have sold it down here, right, at 340. And I'm not sure there's a case to be buying it at 443. If anything, there's resistance there. You should be selling it All right. If it breaks out, then you can buy the next dip. Okay. Right. Somebody's talking about CNN. So a lot of people may not know this, but in the United States, there's a lot of competition and a lot of polarization between news networks, right? So it's very ironic to see the American left-wing news network, CNN, is more hawkish on war than other networks, right? They want to get after the Russians something fierce, almost to the point where I have to watch BBC on my phone or Sky News, even because American propaganda is so obvious. The British are a little bit more neutral about it. So make sure you know what you're listening to when it comes to geopolitics, which is why I like to cover it, and crypto as well. All right, so Litecoin on a 240-minute chart, 4 hours. Okay, it had a 9 top, but turned around and went up, and we haven't seen the 13 top yet. So what does that tell us? Well, it's a wacky world out there, folks. It's a wacky world. Could be one more thrust up in Litecoin. Now, remember, as much as I have a bad, like Rune and Rari, Litecoin and Dash can be my other bad habit. But it's an undeniable fact that every time Litecoin and Dash moon, the market turns around and goes down. Right? It's that simple. So you may get one final moonshot in Litecoin. Because again, this digital cash solution idea, I don't know. It's something that you got to think about, right? So here's my other heartbreaker, Dash, right? Big old fat 13 top, right? The resistance is not until 107. Okay, so that sucks, right? Let's take a look at Nano. Okay, so this has got a different picture, right? This has got a different picture. So when you have Nano, right? Nano's got the 13 and the 9 bottom in, okay? This stochastic indicator down here is called a demarker, as in demarc ER. So think of it as like a smart stochastic. It's actually very smart. Sometimes it's so smart, it's actually tough to figure out how to use it. So when I see that little shaded area, sometimes that could be an indicator that a big move is about to happen, right? Like the shaded area was here, all right? Nano didn't do anything, but eventually rolled over. So this is what I would call my pay attention stochastic. Okay, this whole idea about Nano, no transaction fees. Let's just take a look at the daily and see what the daily chart looks like. Oh my God, look at this. See, here's the 13 bottom over here, right? That was all the way back in early January. And then you have the final puke to the 9 today. So folks, I mean, if there was something out there to get long, not investment advice, right? This looks like something that is bottoming where a lot of these other coins look like they're topping. Okay. Bjorn is asking Oct or Rune. Really, that's probably more of a question for Medi. Okay. I'm sort of a Rune junkie, but he thinks Octopus Network was a 10x. So I've got to defer. All right. Okay. Again, with Rune, Rune's been like a bad habit. I'm not the kind of guy that finds 100x's. That's just not my deal. But in things like Rune, right, where you have cross-chain DeFi, so here's how I would play Rune, right? Rune's got a 9 top on its intraday chart, right? And the big question is, right, will the old ceiling around, say, 494, will that act as support? Will the 9 top create a top? Now, obviously, when something goes from 284 to 540, no, you sell resistance. But if buyers start coming in, right, there's actually 2 levels of resistance here. Okay, one of them is 494 and the other one is 521. So what would I do with Rune? Obviously, there were 13 tops over here in early February, and if you didn't listen to those, you got smoked. And then there were the 13 bottoms down here. So maybe it's a trading range. The only way to know is if Rune would turn around and break out from here. I don't think you buy it until it shows you that it goes above 518 and comes back. Right? In other words, even if you love it, even if you think it's going to 100x, probably you should respect resistance in a market like this. But this idea of Rune, Rari governance token, I think the XDeFi wallet was something else. In this red phone crypto, if you want to look at it on our YouTube, I think we covered some of these coins we called it the Red Phone Crypto podcast on the Token Metrics channel, where we went through the reasoning why this guy thinks Rune was so good. Okay. Boss Nova's asking for Wonderland. I would love to help you there, but they actually told me not to chart that because, that is not really an ebb and flow technical analysis game. So let's take a look at Curve. Let's hope I get the right token. Okay, so here's what I would say about Curve. Sometimes with this momentum indicator, right? When you get too far away from the red and the blue lines, and then you get a reversal signal, right? Once this oscillator down here starts to move in the other direction, that can actually be a buy signal. So let's go see if there's any confirmation for Curve on the DeMark work. My first impression is it's actually kind of bullish. So this whole idea about active portfolio management, right? Like some stuff's mooned and you may want to take profits, right? Wow, what a mess, huh? Okay, so no major evidence. Let's try to look at a daily chart. There's no major evidence on the Curve chart. There's no 9 top yet. But, if you look at the daily chart, this, it's made the new low and it made the candlestick. Now it's starting to break out above this DeMark smart moving average system. I would say Curve belongs in the nano basket and actually may be more bullish, honestly. Okay. I think VRA, I just did, but I'll do it again. Okay, because I know we have like a VRA request every day, which is cool. It's cool. It's your coin. You're tuned into the show. Please hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends, right? This is the only place to get geopolitics, bonds, altcoins, on-chain data, and on-demand TA in the best and the worst altcoin, especially in the one that you know and love, right? Whoops. All right, so I'm not able to get much on VRA. I know I had it up earlier. Let's see if I can get RNBR. Okay, while that loads, let's see if I can get VRA over here. Right, and I see somebody asking for helium, and I did forget about the person with compound. My bad. Okay, so here's VRA. Okay, so VRA is an object in motion to the upside, right? If you look at an 8-hour chart. Okay, the only question is, is this just simply corrective? And I know I'm the one that's supposed to be answering your question. All right, people, that looks stuck to me. Okay, here's RNDR. I think we may have pushed the computer too hard. Oh, there it is. All right, so RNDR, wildly volatile action. You have a 13 top, all right, but it comes back down to support around 278 and holds. So these are your choices in RNDR. You can wait until it gets to 330 and take profits or take losses, right? Or you can leave it. But it clearly seems that people are taking advantage of the up move to get out. Now, as we've talked about frequently on the stream, when you get this thing where sellers are like, oh, I got to get out. Oh, I got to get out. Oh, I got to get out. Okay. If they turn out to be wrong and they run out of ammo, then it can go back up. But I would imagine you're going to see selling in RNDR until it gets to 330. And if it goes beyond that, then it can go much higher. I know we had our friend asking for veracity. Let me see if I can get it up right here on the screen, if it'll come up this time. Okay, so there's VRA. We had this up earlier. So there's a 13 and a 9 top and a ton of resistance, probably right around 0.026. So you're definitely running into resistance and veracity. Now, admittedly, every single candle here is green. Right? So this is how I would trade veracity. Obviously, if you're coming in and asking about it every day, it's because you own it. I get it, right? You like it, or you bought the dip, or you bought it in here and you believe in it. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So if you take out 0.0265, right? If we go back over here, right? This was the key level. This was the prior low. So every time VRA gets here, it kind of does something big. So if VRA gets above 0.0265, it's going to go up. Okay. If it doesn't, then you've got your uptick to exit. Remember, speculative assets in this world. Like, we can sit here and talk altcoins. It's like I almost forgot about all that macro stuff I put up earlier, right? Speculative crypto assets will do great if Ethereum and Bitcoin are still green. You get a failed rally in big cryptos, or you get regulators coming down on the big cryptos, then highly speculative altcoins, no bueno. So just be mindful of sell signals when you see them. Okay, now I promise, if this person is still here, I'd be impressed, right? So if you waited an hour and a half for Compound, okay, here's Compound. Okay, so like all these other coins, I'm seeing these 13 and 9 tops, right? There was the 13 top here. So that doesn't mean the 13 bottom, rather. Doesn't mean it's the end, because there was a rally and then a huge puke. I'm starting to wonder in Compound, particularly since it's DeFi related, right? If the financial system needs to reorganize itself, whether there's going to be a rally to 130 or 135, and then that is where you would consider taking profits. So it's not dead, but it's at resistance with topping signals. So you have to take that into account, particularly if it went from 95 to 125. You would probably only get excited, right, if Compound took out, say, 135. Because I'm sure if you look at Compound on a daily chart, it probably looks like everything else inside DeFi. It looks totally destroyed, right? In other words, there's the 13 bottom, and now it's actually starting to make another move higher. And so if the world has to invent a new banking system, all this old DeFi stuff theoretically could come back, right? So, you have to decide how much risk you want to carry. If you are a massive bag holder in Compound, right, and you've been holding it for this long, let's see what it does at 135, right? Let's see what it does at 135. All right, let me see. I don't know if I can get Jasmy up on the screen. We have a loyal viewer. I believe this was the coin that, let me see if this will actually come up on this system. What do you know? I have Jasmy on DeMark. Let's see what we get. The big question is there a bottom in Jasmy? This thing has done nothing but go down. Okay. So when we look at this, right, there's a 13 and a 9 bottom. Okay. See what the other DeMark signal gives us. If anything. All right, so according to this, Jasmy should have bottomed by now, honestly. Okay, so I would look at, say, 0.0209, right? If we go back over here. In other words, Jasmy has to do something. Now, the good news is it got very far away from its moving average, okay? So in terms of a tactical plan, like, is there a tactical plan for Jasmy? Because I know who's ever's asking is maybe losing some sleep. So perhaps I can help with this. Okay. This is called a bullish fractal. All right. Now, if Jasmy were actually able to rally and take out 0.0185, right, then Jasmy can go up. And if Jasmy fails at 0.0185, then it's not going up, at least right now. That's like the best I can tell you. And I know that there was a request for helium, which I want to get in because I saw that going back and forth. Let's do helium. Okay, Megan, hi, welcome to the stream. We have XRP and VXV. Okay, so here's helium on the daily chart. This may be by the dip mode, perhaps. Let's see what the intraday chart looks like. Okay, so a 13 top, right? This is the 4-hour chart. So like a lot of these old coins, some sort of break is going to occur. But helium is still close to its low. So if you're holding this, you say, all right, well, do I need to take some money off the table? Right? Like where is it in terms of resistance? It's tough to buy resistance. Like buying helium at 25 has not worked all year, or at least it hasn't worked for the second half of February. So if it takes out 13, I'm sorry, if it takes out, if it takes out 25.57, it's okay. If not, this is like a sell resistance thing. And then we come back in 2 days, another reason to turn into the show, because these are 4-hour charts, right? So there's like 6 new bars in between shows. Okay, let's take a look at, I'm going to actually try to put XRP up here. I have not done XRP on the DeMark system yet. Because, man, BitBoy was taken to the airwaves in a big way. He's like, wow, if they shut down Swift and XRP can't go up, I mean, he's got a point, right? So XRP has resistance at 83 cents. No DeMark signals that I'm aware of here on this intraday chart that would bother me. Let's see what the XRP daily chart looks like. All right, now I know this is crazy, but you know what? This might actually, this looks kind of bullish to me, right? I mean, I know it's at resistance at 80, but the bulls are putting up, yeah, they're putting up kind of a fight, right? So yes, there's resistance, but they're still going at it. So what I would say in XRP is this feels like a buy a breakout type of thing, right? Like if you see XRP taking out, I don't know, what is this, 78, 79 cents, right? That would be constructive because over here, you know, you're only at a 5. You could have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, you know, the State of the Union is tonight or tomorrow or in the next couple of days. I'm sorry. Somebody got me for mispronouncing Ukraine, right? Studying a lot of charts. So if you have State of the Union address with more threats and more sanctions, right, things like this could do better. They could. Okay, let me get VXV for Megan because she is an absolutely loyal viewer, but I don't have it on this system. Okay. Somebody's asking for the graph. Let's take a look and see what that says. All right. So on a daily chart, the graph looks really bullish because you have the 13 bottom, you have this big candlestick down here, right? And then it's starting to move through a DeMark moving average. Okay. So the graph has got, you know, a chance. I'd say it's got a chance, right? Some of these smaller altcoins are either dead, or if there's a big rally in ETH, you could have this huge lurch up. All right, let's just take a look at the 4-hour chart so I don't mislead you. All right, so again, with the graph, no real signs of tops or bottoms. That's kind of interesting, right? It's sort of this like neutral equilibrium, at least from a DeMark point of view. So the graph, that's a big multi-coin capital favorite. All right. Big multi-coin capital favorite. Okay, let's try VXV. By the way, folks, how you liking the new show format? Do you like this sort of like on-demand altcoins, geopolitics? You know, feel free to leave a comment if you're watching this later on. Okay, so this is VXV 8-hour chart. Okay, so I guess the good news is VXV broke a trend line right here. And this moving average system seems a little bit neutral. You do have to be careful in this. Okay, when these moving average, when that histogram system gets to neutral, okay, that can be a sign that the down move may start again. So I don't have the DeMark work on this, but you know, if you came back down in this below $2, okay, that could be negative. So just be mindful about that part of it. Okay, wrong again wants to know what I was doing in 1987. So let's bring up the stock charts. In 1987, I was in college, undergrad. My father was a stockbroker, you know, a very, very humble stockbroker who actually believed in doing his clients right, not just getting commissions. So I saw the news on the television and it seemed so apocalyptic that I started to pack my stuff. I thought I was going to have to come home from college. Right. And my parents were like, no, it's actually okay. Right. And then, later on, I studied all about that, how higher interest rates, and a trade dispute with Japan triggered a massive unwind in excess. Right. Seems like a lot of like what we had now, right? We had this huge interest rate move. Interest rates went way up. Now, all of a sudden, we have an external shock. Now, back in 87, it was trade tensions with Japan because we were buying more from them than they were buying from us. All right. That created a crisis that was so bad that I heard a story that somebody left work early that day and went out and bought a gold bar because literally he thought it was the end of the world. I know somebody, my mentor, who was the 2-year note trader, he was trying to buy bonds. He knew stocks were going to go down. He knew it was going to happen. Kind of like now. He knew it was going to happen. But the price action in the bond market was so violent, interest rates were rising so sharply, so afraid of young Alan Greenspan that he just couldn't buy anything. He couldn't hold it. Every time he bought something, he got destroyed. Then stocks took off and bonds moved. And rates fell, and he would have been a gazillionaire, and he knew it was coming and couldn't do the trade, which is frequently what happens. I mean, how many times on this stream have you heard the market's going to do well in the second half of February? And all it did was shit the bed, and then it did the whole rally in one day on the last day of the month, right? So we're continuing to watch the S&P chart. This is the 4-hour chart. So, it looks terrible. It comes back. If you look at S&P, say on a 90-minute chart, okay, it looks like we're doing this, A, B, C. So, they may have another leg higher before any level of reality may set in. All right, folks, that was the extended stream today. Please hit the like button if you like the content. Also, go to tokenmetrics.com and subscribe to get additional research, hidden gems, because if this market has another major leg up, you are going to want to know what our AI and machine learning is picking. All right. So that's it for today. Appreciate all of y'all. I will see you tomorrow.